Hey boys and girls, sorry I can't be here today, but I've got a video for you for the lesson, and hopefully this one will not be too bad at all. So today's lesson, it is Chapter 4, Section 1, and the name of this is Terminating and Repeating Decimals. Terminating and Repeating Decimals. So, terminating decimals. Think of that movie The Terminator. You know, it goes around ending people. Terminate means to end. Repeating, it repeats. So, an example of a terminating decimal: 0.25, 0.3, 0.54. See these numbers? There's nothing after that 5. It terminated. There's nothing after that 3. It ended. It terminated. Nothing after that 4. It terminated. These are all terminating decimals. Repeating decimals are decimals that go on forever. Maybe it's just one number that keeps going on, maybe it's a pattern. Like for example, if you take your calculator, and go ahead and take it and try this now, 1/3, to turn this into a decimal, you're going to go top number, division sign, bottom. So type in there 1 divided by 3. Take a look at what you get. See how it's got 0.33333333? It stops here because the calculator runs out of room, but the truth is if you were doing this with long division, it would just go on forever. So you could write 0.333 and just keep on going, and you keep going forever. Eventually you would die, and I guess that's where it would end. But instead of waiting for death, what we do is we have this this notation, the shorthand. It's called bar notation. So what you do is you write down whatever number repeats and just put a bar over it. And this bar tells me that these 3s are going to go on forever. Now sometimes you might have something that, maybe like a pattern repeats. Like maybe you'll get, 2.8545454, and the 5 4s just keep on going forever. Well, what you would do is you would write down 2.8, and then the 5 4s repeating. So all you do is you write, 154 thing, since that's what's repeating. And the bar goes over the 5 and the 4. It doesn't go over the 8 or the 2 because they're not repeating. It just goes over what repeats. If you put the bar over the 8 also, then that would mean that it goes 854, 854, 854. But since the bar is only over the 5 4, that means right after this it goes 5 4, 5 4, 5 4, 5 4 forever. And that's the difference between terminating and repeating decimals. So let's see. Now that you know that, there's 2 skills that we want to learn in this section. The first one is how to write a fraction or mixed number as a decimal. So, first thing we're going to deal with is fraction to decimal. So, fraction to decimal. You're going to be given a fraction, I don't know, say 2/5. Now to make it into a decimal, you could do the long division, top number in the box, top dog in the house, put the 5 out here, 5 is in a 2 0 times, add a decimal, blah, blah, blah. You could do all this if you wanted to. Or, in your calculator, you can just do top number divided by bottom number. There we go. 0.4. A terminating decimal. That's how you turn a fraction into a decimal. Just top number divided by bottom number. That's it. Done. And if you get bar notation, that's okay. If you get a repeating number and you have to use bar notation, that's fine. Just make sure that you use it. For example, let's say we had 7/9. If we go on our calculator, 7 divided by 9. There we go. So a whole bunch of 0.77777. So I'm just going to write this bar notation over the 7 because that repeats. All right. So the next skill, mixed number to decimal. Now, a mixed number is a fraction that has a whole number in front of it. So for example, what if we had, and I'll use the same 2 as these, what if we had 3 2/5? Now in order to do this, what I'm going to do is I am going to separate the 3 and the 2/5. And it makes sense, 3 2/5, same thing as 3 2/5. So in the calculator, if I type that in there, and I did it already, we got 2/5 equals 0.4. So I'm going to say this is the same thing as 3 plus 0.4, and now when I add that together, it becomes 3.4. So 3 2/5 equals 3.4 as a decimal. Let me show you with this one here. if I had 4 and 7/9. Again, I separate off that whole number, and we already know that 7/9 is 0.7 with bar notation, so when I put it together, it's going to be 4.7 bar notation. Alright, so this is how to turn a fraction to a decimal. This is how to turn a mixed number into a decimal. The last thing that we have to go over is how to turn a decimal into a fraction. Now, this one, it requires that you know your place values. Place values they went over 6th grade, should have gone over it in 5th grade. I don't know if they did or if they didn't, but if you know your place values, this will be fine. Now the place values, what I mean by that is the names of the positions before and after the decimal. So let's just make up a decimal to make this explanation easier. Let's do 1, 2.34. I don't think they'll give you anything after that, but I'll give you one more digit just in case. Alright, so the ones in the tens place, you don't really need to know that much for this, although this is the ones place, that's the tens. But for this, you need to know this name. This is the 10th place. Write it down if you don't know it. This is the 100th place. And this one is the 1000th place. So what you're going to do to write a decimal as a fraction is you're going to say it the proper way, and then you're going to write it the way you say it. So, for example, if I had 0.3, the proper way I say this is 3/10. And take a look at the fraction. Ready? 3/10. Get it? 3/10, 3/10, done. Alright, next example. 5.24. The way I say this properly, 5 and, the decimal point is and, so 5 and 24 hundredths. So watch, ready? 5 and 24 hundredths. One more time. 5 and 24 hundredths, because that's the 100th place. 5 and 24 hundredths. Do another example. Let's do -3 and 1,000. So, -3 and 1,000. So watch. -3 and 1,000. So basically, if you know how to say these properly, you have no problem writing them as fractions. Unfortunately, you got to memorize this. Do your best. So now what I'd like you to do is try and practice some of these problems to see if you understand it. So guest teacher, I'm going to have you in a second pause the video if you don't mind. Boys and girls, I want you to turn to page 267 in your book. And on 267, I'm going to want you to do questions 1 through 4. So, guest teacher, go ahead and pause this video. Once the kids are done with questions 1 through 4, and that should take them, I don't know, maybe like a minute, maybe 2, then unpause it and we're going to go over this. So go ahead and pause the video. Alright, so by now everybody should have had 1 through 4 done, so let's go over this and let's make sure that we understand what we're doing. Number 1, the question was 1/2. So, 1/2, when you type it in your calculator, you should have ended up with 0.5. Remember, you type in 1, division sign, 2, equals. Alright, question 2. For question 2, it was -4 and 4/25. So remember, mixed number, you're going to separate. So, I'm going to have -4 point, and I need to figure out what that 4/25 is. So, 4 divided by 25 equals. And I get 0.16. So there it is, -4.16. Alright, number 3. We've got 1/8. So when we type that in the calculator, 1 divided by 8, 0.125. And number 4, we've got 3/16 in the calculator, 0.1875. Alright, so guest teacher, I'm going to have you pause the video in a second by clicking on it. And boys and girls, I want you to go ahead and do 5 through 12. Go ahead and do those 8 problems. This should take you maybe 3 minutes, maybe 4 at most. So guest teacher, go ahead and pause the video and let them try this. Alright, so by now you should have gotten these done, so let's take a look. First one we have for number 5, we've got negative 33 over 50. So 33 divided by 50 equals 0.66. Don't forget, it was negative, so that means this decimal is going to be negative. And there's our answer. Number 6, we've got negative 17 over 40. So 17 divided by 40, 0.425. Don't forget this was negative, that makes this negative. There we go. Next one, we've got 5 7/8. So we're going to separate this out and just do the fraction. So the whole number we can write right away. I know it's going to be 5 point whatever that is. So we got 7 divided by 8. And that equals 0.875. So when I put that with the 5, I get 5.875. And for those of you confused on that, the whole number was 5. The fraction equals 0.875. So if you took your calculator, I mean, you could probably do that in your head, but if you took your calculator, 5 plus 0.875, that's how you end up with that number. And let's see, number 8, we've got 9 3/8. And when you type in the 3/8 in your calculator, we get 0.375. Throw that whole number 9 in front of it, and you get 9.375. And again, if you wanted to, you could just hit plus 9, and then your calculator would say the right number. Number 9, negative 8/9. Alright, so let's take a look at this. I know it's going to be negative because of that negative sign, so I can write that right away. So let's type this in, 8 divided by 9. Whenever you divide by 9, you're going to get, bar notation. But I have a bunch of 8s that repeat, so I'm just going to write 0.8, bar notation over the 8. I got number 10 right here, negative 1/6. I know it's going to be negative because it's negative there. 1 divided by 6. So look at that, 0.1 and then all 6's. So I'm going to write the 0.1. I don't put a bar over the 1 because that doesn't repeat. Just the 6's do. So I put a bar over the 6. Alright, number 11. I get negative 8/11. 11's another one, should definitely repeat. Since this is negative here, it's going to be negative there. Let's see, 8 divided by 11. Alright, check this one out. 0 point, and then it goes 72, 72, 72. So the pattern that repeats is just 72. Hopefully you see that. 0.72, since the 72's are repeating, a bar over both of them. And for number 12, I got 2 6/11. So I know it's going to be 2 point, and whatever that equals. So I got 6 divided by 11. And I get 5 4 5 4. Okay, so 5 4, bar notation over that. All right, if you did pretty well on that, great. Next we're going to try 13, 14, and 15. It says write each decimal as a fraction or mixed number in simplest form. All right, so what they're going to want you to do here is not only write the fraction, but then reduce it. So go ahead and give that a shot. And guest teacher, please pause the video. This should take maybe 2 minutes. Alrighty, so number 13, we've got negative 0.2. Well, when I look at this, first of all, I know it's going to be negative. Second of all, the proper way to say this is 2/10.